And I am certain that on this day my fellow Americans expect that on my induction into the presidency, I will address them with a candor and a decision which the present situation of our people impels. This is preeminently the time to speak the truth and boldly, nor need we shrink from honestly facing conditions in our country today. This great nation will endure as it has endured.
Okay, good morning, world. Meria here, alive and kicking. Today I have a very special guest who pretty much needs no introduction. We're all huge fans. Governor Jesse Ventura. He was the 38th governor of Minnesota, even when they said it couldn't happen. He achieved the highest approval rating of any governor in Minnesota's history. Previous to that, he was mayor of Brooklyn Park, which is the sixth largest city in Minnesota. He's also a Navy veteran, and I'm sure you've seen him as a professional wrestler in some of his movies. He also was a radio, TV talk show host. He's had 2 other books out, which became bestsellers, I Ain't Got Time to Bleed and Do I Stand Alone? But today we're going to talk about his latest book he co-wrote with Dick Russell, which is absolutely excellent. What a fun book to read. I did it in 2 days. Don't Start the Revolution Without Me. So I'm very pleased to introduce Governor Jesse Ventura.
Hi, Meria. How are you today?
I'm pretty jazzed up to have you on the show.
Well, it's great to be here.
It's my pleasure, too. As I said earlier, I read your whole book. Actually, my son's reading it now and enjoying it.
Good.
And I think it's the best yet.
Well, it's a book that I really wanted to do, and my first 2 books, they gave me huge amounts of money up front to write them, but this book I didn't care, and I took a pittance out front to write it, because I really wanted to tell the story of my 4 years as governor, and I wanted to offer opinions about what's going on in my country right now, and I'm not overly pleased about what I see in my country today.
Oh, I can tell you neither am I, and neither is my listening audience. I have gotten a chance to see a lot of the interviews you've done so far, and boy, I can see where they really set the attack dogs on you every now and then.
Well, that's going to happen because you've got people who are definitely apologists for the United States, and, they have this attitude, my country, right or wrong, and I beg to differ with them. We're being led down a path today where they tell you that if you criticize your government that you're somehow unpatriotic, and I take offense to that because my father was a World War II veteran, my mother was a World War II veteran, and my brother and I are both Vietnam veterans, and, always remember Thomas Jefferson. He said, dissension is the greatest form of patriotism. And I believe him, and I believe that he knew more about what this country was supposed to be than some of our current people today do.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. And it's also supposed to be our duty, not a choice, to be an informed citizenry.
Absolutely.
And it's pretty sad when you look around the country and you see what's happening to America and what's happening to our Constitution and Bill of Rights, especially.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, you can almost today take the Constitution and throw it in the trash because nobody's paying attention to it. None of our elected officials. It's almost, they view it as an outdated document that maybe has no bearing on what our country is supposed to be, and I disagree fully with that. They've got the Madison show right now on HBO, and I've only caught bits and pieces of it, but I really wish everyone would watch that to see, because it's a pretty good portrayal, I think, of what our forefathers had in mind.
Absolutely. I look at it, and, you and I are in pretty much the same age group, and I can tell you that when I was a kid, I never would have believed that within 50 years this country would be where it's at.
Well, it's very disturbing when you see the Constitution violated the way it is, and both parties should be blamed. I mean, it isn't just the Republicans who happen to have the president right now. The Democrats are just as bad when it comes to it. They currently have our country $9 trillion in debt, and they're both responsible for that. I like to always say that Republicans talk like they want to do less spending and cut taxes, but they really spend the same as Democrats. The only difference is Democrats are more cash and carry. They're going to reach right into your wallet and take it through taxes. Republicans Republicans do it a little sneakier way. They put it onto the debt. They spend equally, but they put it onto the debt, which is like the credit card. And as I said, we're $9 trillion in debt now. And, you know, in the private sector, we work hard. We want to leave our kids an inheritance when we go. Well, I got news for people. When you go to leave your kids that inheritance now, it's going to belong to the government, because we're so far in debt that our kids are going to have to, at some point, pay this debt off.
Well, I totally agree. I think it was Obama that came out and said this war is costing every American household $100 a month.
I believe that, absolutely. I think the state of our economy, we were doing pretty well until this war came along, and it seems that our current administration would prefer to rebuild Iraq rather than rebuild America. I mean, I come from the state of Minnesota, and we don't have to look back too far to see a bridge that literally dropped into the river up there. And you look at Katrina that hit New Orleans, they haven't even fixed that yet. You know, call me naive, but if I became president, I would suspend completely all foreign aid, and I would start putting that foreign aid back into our own infrastructure and back into our own country, and let's start rebuilding the United States back up to get us number one.
Oh, I totally agree. It seems the only thing we're number one in now is how many people of ours are in prison, and how many wars we've started.
Isn't it pathetic, the prison situation? We're supposed to be land of the free and home of the brave, and we have more people in prison today than any other industrialized nation in the world.
I know. It's an embarrassment as far as I'm concerned. I always say we're land of the freaks and home of the slaves.
That's a good way to put it.
And, you know, most people don't realize that we're in a prison. We just can't see the bars.
Well, and they need to realize now we've got this thing going on the southern border. They're going to build fences now to keep the Mexicans out of here. Well, I happen to, call me brave, but I live down with those brown-skinned people now for over half the year, so I must have great courage to be down there, because they sure have us terrified up here. And getting back to what you said, they want to turn our country into East Berlin, to where I have a friend who lives down by me in Mexico. He's European, and he avoids the United States like the plague when he travels throughout the world. He's quite a world traveler, and he said most Europeans try to stay away from the United States now because it's so difficult. If you travel on a regular basis, you're literally harassed when you come in here.
Absolutely. My daughter lives in Mexico as well, and she says she dreads driving into the country now.
Yeah, and what's funny, when you go the other direction, which I've did it 3 times, because I drive to and from every year. It's 3,300 miles from my home in Minnesota to my home in Mexico. And you come up to the border going into Mexico, there's no one there.
No, I only see...
Stopped, and I rolled my windows down. I looked both ways, and I said, doesn't anybody give you a piece of paper or say Buenos Dias?
No.
No, you're welcome to drive into Mexico. Yet, when I come home, it's like a 3 to 4 hour wait, and I crossed at Mexicali, and I became a firm believer in global warming on this particular trip, because that day, it was a year ago May, it was 99 degrees in the desert. Now, waiting in line, 4 abreast, for 2.5 hours to get into my country, I watched the thermostat on my rearview mirror go from 99 degrees up to 119.
Wow.
And it was all being done by all these cars sitting there waiting to cross the border. If you moved over 4 blocks, it was 99 degrees.
I know. It's crazy, and I go down there a couple of times a year, too, from Arizona. And driving in, the guards are sitting there, playing their mandolins and wave you on. They were all so happy. But, whoever I drive down there with me, I said, wait till we come back and you see the madness getting back into America.
And what's interesting, all the cars have U.S. plates on them.
Right. They're all like, $50,000, $80,000 cars with U.S. plates, and you still get harassed.
Yep, and then it doesn't end there. I'll continue with my one story. My wife and I got back in the country after crossing at Mexicali. She said to me, well, we can put our passports away now, can't we? And I said, absolutely. We're in the United States of America. We're, protected by our Constitution. We can drive anywhere in this country. Well, lo and behold, we're halfway between Yuma and Phoenix. Another hour and a half wait on the highway for an immigration